I was inspired to write it when I was in the shower. Anyway, it's called Hair I Go. Hey ho, and hair I go. I want hair that glistens when I toss it to and fro. I want blonde highlights and jet black roots. I want to be full-bodied, so I'm off to boots. A distinguished grey is the default effect, so I keep it that way with Colour Protect. Then each month I check each single hair methodically to make sure they're all still there. And if something's not right, there's no harm, you see, in reading all the labels at the pharmacy. I like that rhyme. I've tried stuff that will moisturise, volumise and customise vitamin F and Laurian G, Fritz Protection and Filter UV, Glucoactive and Nutrotonic, Creme Sublimator if your split ends are chronic, Semi-Permanent Chromative, Thermoprotective. I used to use Brill Cream, it was far more effective. I've had my hair groomed, sculpted and reconstructed, straightened and lightened, pre-lightened, refinished, hydrated, detangled, tailored, shaped and polished, reset and toned, mimetic covered, nutri-disciplined, naturally boosted, formula enriched. With photoglosser gum, fibre mess, deviation paste or gel, mythic oil, tonic, cream, wax or fudge or mousse, grey blended for homme with bain de force, masque en temps, cheveux fins, vita resource complex, série nature. I have been lustrous and voluptuous, silky and milky, with a botanical shine, flake-free and radiant, with the ultimate body. Here it is at last. I can unearth it. Kills all nits because you're worth it. So this is the end bit of the poem, which is called Waiting for the Tram to Go. If I could revise the brochure of the tramway village, then I would describe how, when you're settled on the top deck and are waiting for the tram to start, they have this nice idea that we can be entertained by watching Paddy Cook on the street organ, or someone eating fire, or even better, Granny spitting fire on the platform trying to fold the buggy. Pulling levers, bending frames, releasing springs, pressing buttons, squeezing handles, applying brakes, beseeching passers-by who, having children of their own, should be able to do it, looking helplessly at tram drivers and conductors, but they, able to restore a Sheffield Corporation 189, understanding the engineering of 1934, are defeated by Mummers and Puppers 2009. So, as everyone gathers around and advises and commiserates and relates similar incidents and shakes heads, Granny looked round for a monkey wrench or chainsaw, perhaps to assault some child's unhelpful grandfather or settle the mummers and puppers once and for all. Then, as the conductor looks tellingly at his watch and the grandson starts crying and worrying that they will leave Granny behind, she remembers that you have to fold the buggy, pull the levers, bend the frame, release the spring, press the button, squeeze the handle, and apply the brakes all at the same time. It makes rebuilding a tram look easy. The telegraph pole almost become like the village totem pole. You know how the totem pole tells the story of the tribe. So I thought I'd sit down with Longfellow's song, Hiawatha's song, and rewrite it for the Christ totem pole. It's already a bit out of date because they've painted the phone box since I wrote this, but by the faded flaking phone box, by the limpid troughs of water, where the young braves boast and posture, where the young maids check their mobiles, assignations made and broken, backpacks slung for groups of walkers, all the air is choked with diesel, all the cars are parked at random, rites and rituals strange and tribal, customs wrought of ancient habit, carols sung and wells and blessings, squint-eyed man on Little's buses, bringing news from far-off places, Matlock, Tansley, Hege or Ripley, settlements beyond the valley. High above the human travail, high above the jokes and gossip, soaring upwards bearing cables, dark and grained and creosoted, pins and tacks and nails and staples, tape and string and blobs of blue tack, Cryche's life, its people's stories, inscribed the legends, carved the history, all displayed here and recorded, stands the totem, Cryche's memory. A5 handbills, A4 posters, scrawled or laminate the pages, the dance where love was first encountered, class or lecture, talk or concert, lessons learned and inspiration, festivals where friendships blossomed, protests made, objections lobbied, appeals for help or employment, lost cats sought or dogs need walking, bikes for sale or invitations, gasps of joy or disappointments, all the comings, all the business, all the meetings, all the discourse, totem pole of belonging, at the heart, the village centre, where the water always rises. If you're sitting there wondering and hoping that I'll tell you why me legs are wide open, it's none of your business, it don't concern you, but listen and I'll tell you all about my hernia. And I thought it was some ribald fantasy when the doctor put 2 fingers down my pants to see what happened down there. When I coughed I went red. It's rapture, she cried. That's what I thought she said. Got a chorus, and all those of you who've had hernias can join in. If you've still got it, I shouldn't join in. So 2 fingers and a cough, and they quickly wheel you off the abominable abdominal cavity wall. I'm divulging that it's bulging somewhere inguinal. With a felt tip pen we'll mark it, to be sure that we meet our targets. A general anaesthetic and we'll see you all right, with wire netting, gaffer tape and araldite. So while you're unconscious and in the dark, we'll open up your groin just for a lark. Chuck your trusses away, we'll get under your skin, collect up all your bits and shove them back in. So 2 fingers and a cough, and we quickly wheel you off the abominable abdominal cavity wall. I'm divulging that it's bulging somewhere inguinal. If it's strangulated or hiatus, we'll improve how the audits rate us. Repeat the operation and a useful tip, close up the wound with a Velcro strip. So I lifted up the sheet so that I could see from the waist on down what was left of me. It seemed intact despite the pain, so I closed my eyes and sung this refrain. Her 2 fingers and a cough, and they quickly wheel you off the abominable abdominal cavity wall, and I bulging that it's bulging somewhere inguinal. About the Blackpool tram at the tramway village. I'd never been to Blackpool. Clacton and Yarmouth were our local seaside venues. And can I just ask a very personal question? How many people here ever had a knitted bathing costume? Yeah, there they are. They're all owning up. Yeah, a knitted bathing costume. Yeah, yes. Sure, Speedo is the knitted one. Yeah. Now, those of you put your hands up might like to explain to other people around the table what problems are inherent in a knitted bathing costume. And when I think of these old trips to the seaside, and say in my case it was Clacton or Yarmouth, or Frinton. Yes, Frinton. Do you remember there used to be a sign on Liverpool Station, wasn't it? Dover for the continent and Frinton for the incontinent. That's true, actually. So those of you with the knitted bathing costumes might just like to have a bit of a reminisce, and I think an involuntary action is you might be trying to hold it up. I rode on the Blackpool tram one day, but it wasn't the Derwent Valley I saw, or Cromford Moor, mizzled in mist, but Aunt Mabel in a kiss-me-quick hat, and Uncle Roy in flat cap and suit, belly proud with waistcoat and fob. There were the fathers from the factories squinting, caught out by horizons and expanses, their cigarettes cupped against the wind and salt spray. It wasn't the garlic in the damp woods, but chips and vinegar wrapped in the Daily Herald, ozone and candy floss, sweet tea and rock, white bread and jam, and wet sand between toes and buckets spilling, screams from the roller coaster ride, stomach and sick rising, and pale dimpled thighs bulging over stocking tops, and paddling grannies with skirts tucked up in their drooping drawers, like quacking ducks in the brown lapping foam. The tower, iron-girded and skeletal against the night, ascending chords of Reginald Dixon on the organ, Peter Brough and Archie Andrews featuring Larry Adler, Winifred Atwell and Ken Dodd, then the tink and the clack on the rails and the clang of the bell beneath a million lights, and I rode on the tram to Wadebridge through an avenue of sepia sunshine and warm, sweet darkness. Good. Yeah, we'll have Paul is actually in the previous book, but I reproduced it because it told the story of the grandchildren going to the tramway village, and then we had another one and she was left out, so I thought, well, to be fair, I ought to give her a poem as well. So this is the end bit of the poem, which is called Waiting for the Tram to Go. If I could revise the brochure of the tramway village, then I would describe how, when you're settled on the top deck and are waiting for the tram to start, they have this nice idea that we can be entertained by watching Paddy Cook on the street organ, or someone eating fire, or even better, Granny spitting fire on the platform trying to fold the buggy. Pulling levers, bending frames, releasing springs, pressing buttons, squeezing handles, applying brakes, beseeching passers-by who, having children of their own, should be able to do it, looking helplessly at tram drivers and conductors, but they, able to restore a Sheffield Corporation 189, understanding the engineering of 1934, are defeated by Mamas and Papas 2009. So, as everyone gathers around and advises and commiserates and relates similar incidents and shakes heads, Granny looked round for a monkey wrench or chainsaw, perhaps to assault some child's unhelpful grandfather or settle the mamas and papas once and for all. Then, as the conductor looks tellingly at his watch and the grandson starts crying and worrying that they will leave Granny behind, she remembers that you have to fold the buggy, pull the levers, bend the frame, release the spring, press the button, squeeze the handle, and apply the brakes all at the same time. It makes rebuilding a tram look easy. Rude reference in this, which I apologise for, not very genuinely. Starlight. It has actually got an index, but I can't find it. When Grandpa got lost at the tramway. The Bowes Line Bridge I crossed and recrossed on the fateful day when Grandpa got lost. I thought he might have wandered off to stare in the stone drinking trough. Perhaps he had some perverted wish to catch and eat one of the fish. In Rita's tea rooms and Barnett's sweet shop, he's diabetic and should never suck a gobstop. I tried the red line with anxiety and fear. He's got ulcers, a bad heart, and shouldn't touch beer. The workshop's the depot, the yard was still left, but he'll get run over, he's terribly deaf. The Discovery Centre, let him be safe there, please, though he'll fall down the stairs as he's weak in the knees, but at least there's something there for him to do. Estimating horse wee and measuring poo. I tried one more thing and this was final. I went to check the gent's urinal. It would be quite nostalgic inside to stand with his old legs astride, reminiscing of distant times in there and undo his flies in the open air. Though what might befall him, I thought with a shiver, with arthritis, his asthma, his bypass, his liver. 'Neath the lead 345 I crawled for a feel in case he was there all caught up in the wheel. But a uniformed guard dragged me up by the hand and gave me a talking to, a harsh reprimand. If you're responsible for someone, you should be aware they're likely to be playing in the soft play area. And in there, I found Grandpa imitating a horse. He evinced no shame, no guilt, no remorse. You're supposed to be elderly, cautious and sage. You should not be here, I said. You're way over age. I searched for you down by the stone horse trough, and here are you with your shoes both kicked off. I sneaked a peep round inside the gent's urinal, and you're romping about on plastic and vinyl. I looked all around the exhibition halls, and you're rolling about in a pit full of balls. You're clambering up ladders and sliding down slides, punching punch balls, toy elephant rides, swinging on ropes and chucking a cushion, bouncing and shoving and pulling and pushing, and that child's far too fat for piggybacks. With your health, you'll give me bad heart attacks. You're behaving as if this was septuagenarian heaven. You're supposed to be looking after me. I'm only 7. This is a song about turning 60, which I wish I was doing again, but some of you have got this to look forward to. It's 10% discount at B&Q. I shall go on Wednesday, you can come too. or any day at... Oh, focus, that's gone out of... That's closed, isn't it? Any day at Wix may better suit you. We'll buy a panic button and a kitchen or two. Creaking and groaning, listen to me. This is what happens when you're passing Steve. I miss George Dixon on a Saturday, jukebox, jury and Russ Conway. I fancy Alma Cogan and Doris Day and get excited at her whip crack away. Stiffness in the joints and colostomy, this is what happens when you're past 60. Pensioners lunch rated with a spoon, then off to the pictures on a Thursday afternoon. I'll get some Viagra on a free prescription, 'cause Ladies in Lavender is coming again soon. Saga insurance and chiropody, this is what happens when you're past 60. I check my food that there's no fat in, dispersible aspirin and my statin. I'm high on drugs for the lunch club scene, for creaking joints snort glucosamine. Physio and osteopathy, this is what happens when you're past 60. To keep my body toned and trim, I claim my discount at the gym. Pumping hard, I look so hard in my woolen socks and leotard. Sagging flesh and sinewy, this is what happens when you're past 60. With my bus pass I can get around, to Hege and Codner I'll be bound. Alfreton, Tibshelf, Marehay, Shipley, all the way to Derby if I change at Ripley. Smiles and nods and sympathy, this is what happens when you're past 60. I gaze at young women lustfully, they smile indulgently back at me. I chat them up when I get pissed with lines about my urologist. To open my peanuts, please help me. This is what happens when you're past 60. The young ones here don't get the jokes, but they kindly support we ancient folks. Nothing rhymes with crutches, nice and cheap. It'll compost nicely and help you sleep. You might find a rhyme and it would fix me, but do it nice and gently because I'm well past 60. Right. Well, that's it. There are many more, but you'll need to buy the book. I've told you where it's available. Thanks to Rob and to Paul, for David, and for his team.